Hello, class. This is Marcos, and this is our week 5 briefing for the week 6 project. And I want to just kind of go over what you're expected to do for next week and make sure everyone is prepared for our first review of the first project we've completed. So let's get this thing to work. Okay. So as you can see here, we've been really going along quite well here in terms of going through the different phases of our project. And now we're down to the last 2. And we're working on the design completion phase. And all that really means is that we're finishing our projects and getting them to the point where they're ready to present and review among myself, your classmates, and we're going to have a guest reviewer join us on Zoom to get outside perspective and to get someone who hasn't been part of this process. So that'll be key in terms of you being sure you're ready to kind of explain the full process of your design and to be able to talk about what the assignment is and what your research showed and what your design inspiration is and your design statement, and then show you some of your progress of your process of your work, and then to most importantly show your final result of your book spreads and your cover and your back. And we'll be doing that next week. I'll be sending an email out, but the plan is going to be to divide the class into 2 parts so that everyone's required to be in either the first half of the class or the second half of the class in order to minimize your time in front of a screen. But everyone's welcome to be in the full class if they want. And if you're curious what everyone's doing and have the time and want to be in, please, I encourage that. I think that'd be great for you to see that, but I also want to be respectful of your time and make sure that you're not getting pummeled by Zoom time and the screen in your face for too long. So with that, there is one more phase after that, which is called final files. And with the final design review, it doesn't mean that you've carved your book into stone and it's past the point of changing, or even if you're not quite finished maybe and there's things you want to do. If you're behind, there's a few of you that are working to kind of keep up and catch up from some delays. But if that's the case, then there is another week, and be aware of that. And if you get, if we get surprise feedback from our guest reviewer and there's things you want to change, then there's time to do that. And basically what final files is going to mean the week after next is just to have everyone package their InDesign files in order to deliver them to me so that they're as close to being ready for printing as possible. And then we can send them off to the printer and start getting them produced. So that's the general outlook for the project. Then we'll be moving on to our second project. So for this week, it'll be kind of the last getting to the finish line. And when you're getting to the finish line, you don't necessarily slow down or take it easy. You run through the finish line fully. And I want to make sure that we all are doing that and that we're taking advantage of the time we have and the feedback we've been getting, and to everyone to be as self-critical as possible and to be able to step back and take a look at your book and make sure that you've kind of addressed everything and all the opportunities that are possible with what you can possibly do with your book have been taken advantage of or explored. It could mean rejecting a lot of things. It could be, oh, how about this? Now that I see the book, let me try this. And it could mean like, okay, that's a bad idea. And that's what you should be doing. Don't hold everything you've done too sacred. Keep flexible, and also seek feedback, see what others think in your world, and pay attention, of course, to the text as well. And now that your mind is maybe a little less off the details of the design or of the illustrations you've been making, take a look at the text again, read it out loud from start to finish, as if you were reading it to a child, as best you can. Those of you with younger siblings, round them up, do some testing, see how it goes, get feedback, But at the same time, be in charge of your vision, make sure that you're staying true to what you believe is the best thing, and not necessarily follow advice by everyone, including me. Do what you think is right. So work towards completing your book from cover to spreads to back. And then what I'd like everyone to do is to share with me your finished book before next class, maybe early next week, like no later than Wednesday, so that if there are things to have to change, if there's comments that I have, or if there's things that are still on, many of you still are debating how things should work, and please share those with me even earlier if you want. And again, I'll be trying to check things over the weekend, use Slack and use email, but let me participate in helping you make those final decisions. But let's share the final book if you think it's final. It'd be great to see it. And then the final thing to do is to make sure you put together a full presentation that you're putting it in reference to, or you're creating it towards this idea of presenting it to the class, to myself, and to our guest. And to do that, I want you to make sure you're using the model we've been building on, and it shouldn't be that these things have to be created. It should be that you have these things already, and you're just including your final work, and you're editing things out, and maybe you're doing some changing in terms of your storyboard concept. Your design concept. Maybe you're for sure you're going to be editing like the work that you've done between your storyboard and your final layouts. You might want to have a section there that just shows some of your preliminary work. Maybe it's a page with small layouts. You don't have to go extensively into every single phase. And if you think it's cleaner to go from your storyboard to your final design, I'm not against that either. But it might be interesting to see your process and to see some of the things you started to work on and how they evolved. But the key will be that you tell this full story, and that you don't tell it too long. Everyone's going to have 10 minutes each, so you're going to have like 6 minutes or so for your presentation, and then 4 or 5 minutes for response. So make sure you and this stuff can be there, like the overview page on DERT, like have it there. You shouldn't have to talk about it. I think that everyone can pretty much skip that. But and summarizing the assignment, you might want to just use those 2 pages to help get you started, to say we're working on a project for DERT, and we're working on creating baby books to grow the line that they've already started. And this assignment is going to show my concept for a baby book, and then go right into, like, the first thing I did was research, and I looked at these different kinds of books. And then when looking at these books that you're showcasing, try to make a connection to what your final design showcases, what your final design is about, so that there's a connection. If it means having to change some of those, I would do that in order to make sure that your book makes sense, that you're building a case for the design of your book, you're building a case for your concept, that there's a validation for what you're trying to do, and you can show that within some of both the case studies that you show and in the design inspiration. Like, use that as a way to help the guest reviewer begin to get into your mind and see your process, and be able to understand the language you're using with the elements of your design. So that's what that's about. Make sure that it's not just something you're showing because you're supposed to, but you're using it as like evidence of why your idea is good. And then your design concept statement, make sure that becomes something you stop at and say, like, this is what I want to do. Make sure it's clear and that it supports what you ended up doing. So again, if it needs to be changed, if it needs to be updated a little bit to reflect what your final result was, do that. And then the storyboard page begins kind of showing your process, begins showing the way that you began structuring and thinking about it. And it should help the reviewer to sort of get into that process with you. Show some preliminary design works, maybe make a page that just kind of shows that, or a couple pages. Don't go through every single past 2 or 3 weeks where we went and made updates. So you're going to have to possibly edit your your deck there so that it's not so long. And then the main part is to showcase the cover and the spreads and the back as these, like, and big on a page, one per page. And then after that, make sure that you put your full book, like cover to all the spreads in the back on like one page, so that that's like sort of the place that you can end up leaving your page once you're done. Of course, you go to the thank you page, make sure you have a thank you page, and then when you're done presenting, go back to that one page that shows the full book, and then we can give feedback from there. So I put all this down on the Canvas page and the link to the Google Drive. Make sure you're putting your decks up there, and for sure this one has to be there. And here it is on the Google Drive. And again, this is your chance to make sure that you take full advantage of the work you've been doing. Everyone's got great concepts, everyone's doing great work, and every week we keep evolving to be better. And it's going to really be now about just making sure you run through that finish line, you put together the best design, you share with me, so that there could be any final feedback or any things that can make it better are revealed before the review, and then be ready on Thursday to present this. So looking forward to it, and looking forward to hearing from all of you, and we will see you next week.